Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Naja. If you are new here, I just want to say welcome back to my channel. Guys, listen, I am super excited, number one, for the things that are to come for this new year. There's so much that's happening, whether it is good or whether it's bad things in the world in general. It's so much that's happening, guys. It's kind of hard to stay focused. It's kind of hard to remain in position, making sure that you have your guard up and that you are doing exactly what God has called for you to do. And if you're not staying at His feet, which is becoming harder at times, you may miss what God is doing. So staying at His feet, remembering to worship, remembering in Jesus, worshiping, staying at His feet, making, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you, worshiping has been easier for me. What has been hard lately is doing exactly what I have done for the past 3 years, which is when I go into my study time, actually being able to study for 2 straight hours without easily being distracted. The enemy is beefing up his attacks on the mind. Let me just say that. So certain things that you probably should not even be thinking about when you are talking to the Lord and at His feet, He drops in your mind thoughts of things that you either need to take care of, things that you have to do the next day, things that happen during that particular day, and you find yourself floating off. And I have noticed that more than not, okay? And so you really have to be very intentional about the time that you spend with the Lord, okay? And so when you're spending time with the Lord, you have to make sure that you probably need to start your study time with prayer and worship first, okay? Intentional prayer that's going to cast down any attempts from any monitoring spirits, cast down any attempts of Satan to invade your mind while you're studying. Praying in the Spirit will help to diminish a lot of that, okay? So I'm going to be very quick with this word today, because the enemy is already at it by causing my battery to always be ready to die when I haven't even used the camera in a few days. So here we are again. But without further ado, before getting started, what I would like to do is to let you guys know that if you're new here, you probably don't know anything about it because I haven't talked about it in a while. But if you've been here with me for a few years, then you know that I had an eyewear line called Kingdom Vision. I started this eyewear line back in 2021. I am looking to get rid of the old style frames that I had. I still am sitting on frames that I need to sell. And so I'm having an everything must go sale. So if you wear glasses, if you wear readers, I have some gorgeous quality readers that are from 1.25 to 1.75. So I have 1.2, 1.5, and 1.75. All right. Check out the website. I will typically have on appear in my videos, and I forgot to put it on. So just a second. Okay, there we go. So for those of you who know me, you know I'm big on style. Okay. And there's nothing better than having on some gorgeous frames that just add to your style, right? So that is what I was big on with this eyewear line, and they all have the Kingdom Vision on the side of them. The Lord gave me this idea back in 2021, but I ran with it, and that's why it's so important that we pay attention to timing. When God gives us a word and He tells us that there's something He wants us to start, we take that in and we sit on it, and we're supposed to wait for the Lord to say, move, okay? Wait for the Lord to bring certain things together so that that can be executed in his timing and in his way. But I had a huge problem with being someone that would hear the Lord say something and I jump to it and I just run with it, right? So I am being more intentional about waiting on the Lord when he gives me a word of something that I'm supposed to do. And so this is an example to you guys to make sure that whatever the Lord tells you to start this year, there's going to be some revelation and discernment taking place. We need to make sure that we wait on his instruction. If you don't know what to do, wait on his instruction. I can't say that anymore. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this word. The name of this word is awake, awake. Shake yourself from the dust and arise. Okay, the Lord started me out in Exodus 39, verse 11 through 15. And the most thing that he was pretty much saying in reference to this portion of the word was to be careful of your associations and the places you go or hang around. There are people waiting, okay? People waiting to defame you and your reputation in this time. So the enemy is taking every opportunity with these last efforts to get you pulled into some mess. All right. There's so much stuff that's coming to the body of Christ this year, but the enemy is going to try to trip you up. There's no person that can close any door that God has opened besides yourself. So don't think that just because the Lord is bringing these things to his people that the enemy is now locked in a cage and can't try to influence you to mess up your opportunity to receive. Okay, so be very, very careful of your associations, the places that you're hanging out in this time. Okay, obedience to God and what he has called is necessary. You have to be obedient in this time in order for things to go as planned. If you are not outside of his will, if you are outside of his will, his presence is not going with you. Your enemies are trying to invade your space, either in the spirit or physically. Okay, so depending on your situation, who you are, some of you have people that are trying to invade your space spiritually, and others are trying to invade your space physically. Okay, many of these people, the Lord has revealed, many of these people the enemy is using are operating under false gods and sacrificing to demons. So if you are falling into the trap that the Lord is not with you, then the Lord is not with you as mentioned. Okay, I'm just reading my notes. So as mentioned in the previous portion I just gave, your obedience is very, very important. If you are outside of the will of God, then the Lord is not going to walk into those areas with you, which is why you have to be obedient. If you go back and read Numbers 14, verse 39 through 45, you'll understand what I mean. It is talking about a futile invasion attempt. And during that time, it was very important that you are obedient in following exactly what the Lord tells you to do. Because if you go outside of his will, then you are putting yourself in a position to be open for an attack to take place. Okay? A lot of you are actually your protection is going to come from your joining with your mate. Let me explain why. With Ruth, in Ruth 3:9, Ruth's request to take your maidservant under your wing was a metaphor suggesting her need for protection, just as a young bird would run under the wings of their mother to escape birds of prey. Yahweh's wing was Boaz's wing. Okay, he was the kinsman redeemer. So for many of you, when you come together with a covenant that is ordained by the Lord, it brings forth even more power and covering for purpose. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. The Lord also showed me Hezekiah's life being extended, how it discusses that in 2 Kings 20, verse 1 through 6. Okay? Isaiah the prophet told Hezekiah that the sickness was going to kill him unless he got his house in order. He was given 15 years. So that doesn't necessarily mean in your particular situation that there is a physical sickness. Okay, it may be a spiritual sickness. It may be something that may try to come over you in the spirit, but you need to get your house in order. It is very important that you get your house in order for you to receive the things that the Lord is bringing to you. The tragedy of the wicked and the blessedness of trust in God. Read Psalms 73, okay? Okay, so although I suggest that you read Psalm 73, I'm going to read the notes just to give you some context in reference to what that chapter is about. The psalmist expressed his human weakness. His feet had nearly slipped. He saw the prosperity of the ungodly and was envious of the wicked who never seemed to suffer for their wrongdoing. Life did not seem fair. The psalmist began to reflect with viewpoint of faith as he entered the sanctuary and worshiped God. He began to put life in perspective. He realized the devastating end of the wicked, which led him to pour out his heart in praise to God. The poet did not receive a comprehensive answer to the unanswerable question of evil. He did receive great assurance of the presence of God. Psalm 131 is also talking about the simple trust in God. You need to trust the Lord. Trust what he's doing. Okay? Do not question why the wicked has this, why the wicked is doing that. Trust in the Lord for what he's going to bring you. Let your garments always be white and let your head lack no oil. Okay? Ecclesiastes 9:8. Let your garments always be white, meaning stay away from sin. Let your garments always represent the holiness of God. And let your head lack no oil. Okay? Stay out of sin. Continue to live a life of righteousness. And then this is where my title was brought in. Okay? Awake. Awake. Shake yourself from the dust and arise. Put on your strength, O Zion. Put on your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem. The holy city for the uncircumcised and the unclean shall no longer come to you. Shake yourself from the dust and arise. Sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose yourself from the bonds of your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. Now, it says here that I'm supposed to read the notes of the commentary, which I may enter in later. Okay, so in the commentary for Isaiah 51:9, which is talking about awake, awake, it says, this address to Jerusalem is intimately connected with the closing verses of the preceding chapter. Jerusalem is there representing as downtrodden in the dust before her enemies. Here she is described under the image of a female that had been clad in the habiliments of mourning. And she is now called on to arise from this condition and to put on the garments that would be indicative of gladness and of joy. The idea is that the time had come now in which she was to be delivered from her long captivity and was to be restored to her former prosperity and splendor. Put on thy strength, Hebrew, clothe thyself with thy strength. The idea is exert thyself, be strong, bold, confident, arise from thy dejection, and become courageous as one does when he is about to engage in an enterprise that promises success and that demands effort. Put on thy beautiful garments. Jerusalem is here addressed as she often is as a female. She was to lay aside the garments expressive of grief and captivity and deck herself with those which were appropriate to a state of prosperity. Daniel 10:13, the prince of the kingdom of Persia was not a human king, just as God is concerned with the affairs of humanity and works for the well-being of his people, so also Satan is actively at work to subvert and thwart the will of God. in the lives of individuals and nations, and particularly to hinder the welfare of God's people. Just as Satan sends emissaries to work his evil will, so also God sends his heavenly messengers to assist his people. So just don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed by the things that you see Satan doing as if God is sitting still. He is never sitting still and not working on the behalf of his people. It is a mighty war that is taking place in the spirit. So always know that as Satan is sending his emissaries to work his evil will, also God is sending his heavenly messengers to assist his people. And his power and his heavenly assistance are more powerful than Satan's. Okay, always remember that. A book of remembrance. Okay, Malachi 3 verse 16 through 18. Where is my phone? Let me read. I'm all over the place, guys. A book of remembrance. Then those who feared the Lord spoke to one another, and the Lord listened and heard them. So a book of remembrance was written before him for those who fear the Lord and who meditate on his name. They shall be mine, says the Lord of hosts, on the day that I make them my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spares his own son who serves him. Then you shall again discern between the righteous and the wicked, between one who serves God and one who does not serve him. So in the notes here, it says, a few among God's chosen nations still feared the Lord and heeded Malachi's warnings. The Lord was not far off, but was so close to his people that he overheard their conversation. Ancient Near Eastern kings customarily recorded the names and deeds of people who were particularly royal. This loyalty was usually lavishly recompensed. The Lord's jewels is a reference found in ancient covenant contracts in regard to a valuable possession acquired by a powerful king in covenant with a vassal nation. God was claiming these faithful people as his special possession under the terms of his covenant with Israel. The people had claimed there was no difference between those who worshiped the Lord and those who did not. The wicked still prospered and the faithful suffered, but God's people must not be deceived by appearances. The day would come when it would be clear to everyone that there is an eternal difference between those who serve God and those who do not. So that goes back to what I just said. Don't focus on what the wicked is doing and what they have. God is going to take care of them. Focus on what God is doing with you and moving in obedience, making sure that you are staying at his feet, okay? Focusing on him, focusing on what he's called for you to focus on. Don't turn to look at what the wicked is doing. Stay focused on God. Now, that does not mean that we don't notice and the Lord brings forth what the wicked is doing and speak on it. Some of us are definitely called to speak on those things, as God had called me to speak on them 2 videos ago. What I am stating is in reference to your personal walk with the Lord. Don't allow you to look at what the wicked is prospering in doing. So there may be someone that's close to you and you know they're not a believer. You know they aren't doing right, but they're consistently buying a new house, a new car. They're getting material wealth, which seems like blessings, while you're still waiting and trusting and believing God to do the same for you. Do not get caught up in that. Understand that you are blessed, and your blessings do not just come through material wealth. So yeah, focus on that. Guys, I'm going to end here because I know that my battery is dying, as I said before. Please visit the website link below to get your frames. Share it with anyone you know who needs them. They are marked completely down so that I can get rid of these in hopes of getting new styles for the year. I love you guys so much. Please subscribe to the channel, share the video as well, and I'll see you very, very soon in my next video. Love you. Bye.